Morning. I've been watching the news, and it seems that there needs to be some objectivity brought into it. And so this video is about the same old story, man. Because everywhere I see, there's two sides of it. There's consciousness, and then there's anxiety, right? And people that believe in anxiety, I mean, both camps, they recreate the circumstances that is an expression of their beliefs, right? And so that's why people are in charge. They like continuously there be problems, is because they're replicating the function of anxiety. And because that's what the public thinks is politically credible, because courage acknowledges anxiety. Okay? And so Israel and Palestine is that. It was instinctively intuited, according to the political correctness of anxiety, that this would be the optimum situation, and so here you have Gaza border, and you've got Israel highly offended that Palestinians, they're firing these missiles over the thing, over the fence, and the explanation of that, of their actions and their position, is completely ignorant of the history there, that they've turned up unannounced, uninvited, and taken control by force of the majority of the country. Okay, and other countries, really, I would have thought the rest of the Arab world would have come in and tried to put it right, but as they live under this belief system where they believe that anxiety is virtuous, they knew that the cause of this had its genesis in an anxiety, and so they instinctively stayed well off it. Okay, no contest, and that's why they're okay with it. Okay, and that's all that needs to be said about Israel and what they're doing. They're not defending themselves against Arabs. They're actually defending the virtue of anxiety. Okay, blasphemy laws. This is actually, they're defending it's blasphemy against anxiety, because religion has been exclusively derived from the senior elements of anxiety, senior elements of the political correctness of anxiety, at the conceptual level, because it's the political optics that is the language. Okay, the political optics. And so the political optics of the political correctness of anxiety is what we're talking about, because that was the language that was used when the baby that did not have language first had its experience with anxiety, right? And this goes back way before, this pre-exists Muhammad. Okay, Muhammad was a baby that did not possess language, and he had that exact experience as everyone that's watching this video has had as a newborn baby in the first moments of life, going from just consciousness to being in this physical realm. That is what has happened, right? And same with the people that started up like Christianity, and so you get all these people that had that exact same experience, where the culture shock event of birth brought the values of anxiety into existence, and then when they started speaking, that anxiety turned into a political entity, which has its political correctness, which is then enables people that are disassociated to have the same idea, because it is actually the political correctness of anxiety. Okay, it's the optimum outcome for the political correctness of anxiety, and they can and that can be instinctively intuited, and so that's how these guys got together and they had this idea. So as a general format, it has enabled the conceptualization of religion, and the public of the world think religion is credible because the public of the world also understands what the political correctness of anxiety is as well, because that's largely what has governed the development of language. And so I'll just say apologies that it's been a few weeks since I've made a video, and that's not good. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of work on the political party, and so I mean the only contention we really need to talk about on the political party front is it's the same thing as what the religious things do. It's how they that are have this compulsion to control, how they maintain their position in relation to the public while the situation is changing, right? So they may find themselves in a weaker position, and so what do they do to make it look like they're still in the same position to us, right? Okay, that's a lot of what's going on, and so a lot of the things that have happened are about that. You see, you get the Iraq War. You see, I think this right. The aristocracy, the establishment in Israel, and Wall Street are one and the same thing, right? And so they knew that through education and experience, they knew that their time was, their days were numbered, right? As the establishment, right? And you see, most of us, the 99%, we worry about consciousness, and so that's why we have a very micro level perspective. We believe the micro level perspective is of value, which is our own lives, what we're doing, how do we do what we're doing, and that's how society has an economy. Okay, all these people focused on their own thing going on, boom boom, right in front of them, the day-to-day stuff. And a lot of us, that means working. A lot of us are highly educated, highly skilled people, and we do physical activity for an employer. But the thing is, the employer's doing that. The employer started a business and is running this business for exactly the same reasons that we actually are doing this. We've only chosen to do this, to operate machines and trucks and things, and do welding, and I do all sorts of things. And I've chosen to take that path. Okay, the employer's doing exactly the same thing, but he's chosen to do it in that capacity. Okay, and I think it's because of this. I think because people with a high level of focus gravitate to doing physical things. Okay, so if you have a really high level of focus, you'll gravitate to doing things with your hands, right? Actual physical work. I mean, making things, And so really, I'll just segue out here. The whole thing about feminism and making the family unit obsolete, for lack of better words, this is a huge insult to this business of focus gravitates to physical activity, right? Because mum, the housewife, right, is a highly focused human being, highly intelligent, overseeing, running a household, maintaining that household, which means gardening, and it means all sorts of, things need doing around the house, and then nurturing children, okay, raising children, okay, looking after them, clothes, the supply of things, supply of educational things, and then there's the relationship with dad. Okay, mum is like ultra person. Dad goes out. Traditionally, dad goes out, works, but mum's full time. Dad's got this other lifestyle where he works, brings in the income, in there. So that was the traditional way. And so the feminism thing and the political correctness thing is a very serious assault. Okay, culturally, but also spiritually, because this thing of focus, right? This is the spirituality. This is the evidence of spirituality. Okay, and I've got the biggest problem with how they've attacked that. And see, none of that's worked out. They've tried the feminism thing for like 15 years in New Zealand, and the political correctness thing, and they're doing it all, the sexual assault thing now, and they're still doing that, and all of it is about destroying the family unit, okay, or destroying the means to have a relationship through a chilling effect that's been created through this. And I know that none of the youth out there give a crap about it, because they're still hardwired believing in consciousness. Okay, that's why it's well known that parents have a very difficult time talking to their teenagers, right? Well, that's why. It's because the parents are starting to really embrace anxiety as virtuous, and the kids there, they are really embracing consciousness, because they just developed their own identity, okay, as individuals. And see, that's why when they hit puberty, they really start acting at odds. This thing starts happening. Now, and it's been known it's hormones, and it's like this. It's not. I don't believe it is. I believe it is consciousness. They are holding on to their faith in consciousness, and under the pressure of anxiety from the parents, they are expressing loyalty to consciousness, right? And they are doing that, right? And but because the parents keep believing in anxiety, because once you start believing in anxiety, that's just a rabbit hole. That's vertical drop, mate. It's just, and so I believe that the revelation of the 8 laws is a revelation about that. It's a revelation about relationships, and the real brass tacks, nuts and bolts of actually what is going on in a relationship. And so, none of the West likes what Israel does. In New Zealand, right, we're the direct opposite of Israel. We're exactly the opposite of Israel. Okay, we've got this Treaty of Waitangi, and effectively what that says is 2 people become 1 nation. And mate, we're the we're the ultimate country. We're the ultimate cultural success story, where 2 cultures live together. 2 very different cultures, and they are absolutely really different cultures. But because people don't think consciousness exists, they have a hell of a lot of trouble trying to articulate this relationship. Okay? And so that's all going to change with the Tnil party running in the election, because that will give me the opportunity to explain this, why there is such difficulty articulating how you feel about your relationship, right? and just acknowledging consciousness is real. That's all that has to happen. But as I was saying, you know, you look at New Zealand and how we're getting on. This is fantastic as. I mean, America looks like a pack of, you know, America looks like really uncivilized rabble, according to what's published and promoted by the media. Where New Zealand has this really, we have, you know, it works out very good. You know, I think it's the best. It's the best in the world, really. Well, the Western world, right? And so I thought I'd write this little video because I woke up this morning. I was burnt out, so I slept early and I woke up early, and so I make this video and to Avi Yemini in Australia, in Melbourne. Now, Mr. Avi, you know what? Avi, you need to actually just forget all about Israel. You're bloody Australian, mate. You talk Australian, you walk Australian. I think give up on the Israel thing, man. That's your heritage. Okay, that is your heritage. It's not your culture. Okay, your culture now is you're Australian. Okay, you are an Australian, mate. And the fact that you're speaking out for the white South Africans, this is something that is not, you know, you're not acting very Jewish, eh? You're not acting very Israeli with the siege mentality, the cultural siege mentality, by, you know, publishing concern for the welfare of white Australian farmers, which is absolutely a great thing to do, man. It's like, I have a lot of empathy for those guys, you know. I think there's in Auckland here, up in Auckland, there's like something like 25,000 South Africans live there, and that's just on the North Shore, which is part of Auckland. You can't, you know, they should bail, eh? They should bail. I mean, the white South Africans, man. We should, you know, we should just be objective and take things on the chin, man, and say that situation is scrambled eggs, man, and they need to just bail out, man, because you can't stop that. You can't stop a government that is rousing up a huge population of really uneducated morons to go and harm people because of how they feel. You know, farming is a highly skilled working environment for the boss, for planning crops. You've got to know various certain things to be able to, you know, look after crops, man. Know when to plant them, know when to harvest. Then you've got the systems of getting it to market, as it were. You've got to have a lot of relationships. You've got a relationship with the earth. You've got a relationship with the plant as it's growing. You've got a relationship with machinery. You've got a relationship with time. You've got a relationship with logistics. Just getting over there to put your boots on is logistics. So I came through farming, and so I understand logistics from a military perspective, because that's the natural inclination on the farm. It's taken with the utmost seriousness. That is your personal life. It's not work when you work on a farm. That is your personal life. And that's why when the farm goes under, that's why, you know, these many farmers have committed suicide. They are heartbroken when a cow dies, you know, when stock becomes, if there's some disease, Yeah, it's very ugly, man. It's very ugly. So yeah, I think, Avi, I'd like to say I don't think you're Israeli, and I don't even think I don't even think you're Australian. You're actually promoting consciousness and the values of consciousness, and this is tremendously. This is so tremendous. This is very tremendous, and you will find, as you have found, a lot of difficulty trying to talk to people while you can articulate consciousness, but they can't. You try and articulate consciousness, and they start articulating anxiety, and they just want to take you down, mate. And they just want to, the political optics of what they do is they just want to stop you talking. They want to be involved in the conversation, but they want to be seen as right, and they want you to shut up. They want to take you down. They want to stop you being involved with it. Okay, that's the political behaviour of anxiety. Behaviour of consciousness is this the obvious philosophical, the primary philosophical objective is find a solution. You weave your way through the nuances, man, and you get the solution, and then we're off over there. Yeah. And anyone with consciousness that values consciousness, they are immediately talking about solutions as well. They can see obvious problems. They can see the obvious problem you can see, Avi. And so, but when it comes to talking to people about it, like you say, I've seen this little video you just did, interview on the TV, you go and talk to politicians about this, you try to, and they just run and hide, man. And that's exactly the behaviour of anxiety, right? If you want to talk to a flatmate that's fucked it up somehow, and they know that you know, they'll be out. They won't be able to. They won't answer their phone, and see, that's the behaviour of anxiety. Okay. I think I've got to say, I've said it a bunch of times in comments. I firmly believe that Hamas is an Israeli operation that creates the right circumstance to where Israel can do that, right? Because for me, what Hamas do, right? How fucking famous is Israel, and how Israel reacts to certain events, right? You can guarantee Israel are going to do this if this happens, right? So how come Hamas keep doing this? This is not any Palestinian teenager's idea of a good time. Palestinian teenagers are just like Israeli teenagers, just like teenagers everywhere. They just want to relax. They want to sit down. They want to relax. They want to embrace, video games and hanging out with their friends and girls. And they've got this giant religious war going on. Oh, yeah. So there's some objectivity. Why are Hamas doing the exact thing Israel needs to smash them? Why do they keep doing that? That's really, really fucking stupid. Even the Maori in New Zealand, right, way back in the day, man. Ratana, passive resistance. Passive resistance. Passive resistance because it is known for certain a solution can be found. If we weave through the nuances, we can find ourselves at the solution. And so why do Hamas, they do this thing with these missiles, these unguided, really they're unguided, they haven't got a warhead. And I'm thinking, what is this, a theatrical prop or something that they do this? Because, you know what, let's just say that, is these rockets from Hamas a theatrical prop? They're unguided and they have no warheads. Are these missiles from Hamas a theatrical prop? So I have my bias that anxiety is a very talented bullshit artist because it uses the cognitive power of consciousness, and I'm really sick of that. We need to stand up for consciousness. We need to, I mean, look at the political optics of what Avi Yemini is doing. Okay, this is very pro-consciousness, what he's doing. Very pro-consciousness. Okay, his gym is really pro-consciousness. Self-defense classes that's really pro-consciousness. Okay, so I think you all need to know, especially you, Avi. I will welcome you. I will welcome you in this Tnil age, which is the new intellectual landscape. I will absolutely welcome you as a citizen of the new intellectual landscape for being pro-consciousness, and being so pro-consciousness you go very public. You are becoming famous. You are famous. It's marvellous. It's tremendous. And I would welcome you as a citizen of the new intellectual landscape. Because as a pro-consciousness person, you and me are brothers immediately. That's all I can say. So yeah, there's so much more to say. Because you've got to say, like, let's talk about the Israeli-Palestine thing another way, right? Okay, and all the billions of man-hours spent focusing on solutions to mental health issues, right? By the most highly qualified minds of academia for literally hundreds of years, right? And here we are, finding ourselves in more and more difficulty and higher levels of instances of these mental health issues taking over. After billions of man hours of the most highly qualified minds of academia producing strategies to mitigate these problems out of society, right? They're still getting worse, right? And since they've missed the mark, what we've got is a media in New Zealand, right, that actually does a fairly good job at replicating. It's like an inverted schizophrenia, and it is a replication of anxiety, where they're just going on and on and on about issues all the time. Every single face on the media, on television, is on a six-figure salary, right? And they are very disassociated from the lot of the working class and the poor people. They have actually and so that's their bias, that's their political bias. They're always going on about problems and they're never talking about solutions. Okay, so this is a result of this missing the mark by the establishment's academia, trying to find solutions for mental health issues, and having spent billions of man hours to do that. This looks a lot like the Palestinian-Israeli situation. I mean, if Israel was smart, they wouldn't want this conflict. They wouldn't want to keep organising it as a conflict. Okay, but tell you what, you've got such a serious case of scrambled eggs going on. You know, you've got real long-standing axes to grind. Okay. I mean, you can say what you're saying about Gaza, the Gaza border, and what's happening there. But when you look at the encroachment of the settlements into Palestinian land and how Palestinians are treated by the settlers and how the Palestinians have to deal with these checkpoints all over the place, right? Kind of makes the argument about the Gaza border look a little flimsy, you know. It's bullshit. Okay, they're deluded. They are delusional because of those other instances on the other side of the fence, right? The checkpoints, the settler, how they take the properties, and then how they treat the Palestinians, and then the checkpoints. You know, what they're saying about how they're defending... No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Israel believes that anxiety is virtuous, and that they instinctively intuit the right circumstance, causality, situation, that they look as credible as possible in their belief that anxiety is virtuous. And this is going on all over the show, right? Okay, like in New Zealand, media was freaking out about the housing crisis. Oh no, they're inviting like 70,000 immigrants here a year, and they go, oh, there's a housing crisis. You know, they're causing their own problem. The media are hardcore complicit in causing all of these problems, because now they've switched it to Mycoplasma bovis, cow disease, and they're going to kill off lots of cows, 100,000 cows, and they don't seem to understand that the ego of their anxieties is the problem. Okay, the ego of their anxiety is the problem. And that's why I have coined the phrase, it is the cultural belief identity. Cultural belief identity. If you believe it's your cultural belief identity that anxiety is virtuous, and you need to promote that anxiety is virtuous, and you need to defend the virtue of anxiety, and you have political control and you have money, what do? So this is very much reason probably why there's been no societal development in the West for a long time. My whole life there's been none. And so if there's been billions of man hours of research by the most highly qualified academic minds in the world for decades, if not centuries, how come today we've got the worst suicide and domestic violence statistics in history? What's the maths of that? It's because courage acknowledges anxiety, and those that want control, they replicate the function of anxiety to be in control, because courage acknowledges that, and they keep replicating the function of anxiety with these events as replicating the event of anxiety as it events in the mind, just like religion does with Satan. You know, holding it over everyone's head. Oh, you know, the tribulation's coming and the Antichrist is coming, and fucking bullshit. Courage acknowledges anxiety, and people that think that anxiety is virtuous replicate the function of anxiety as it events in the mind to seem like they are in control. That's what's been going on. That's what's been going on. And so we have the immigration crisis in England with old poor Tommy Robinson. And so they've overloaded the place with immigrants, specifically because they're a totally different culture, is to reset this equation. They can't reset the value of currency with a war. So what they're doing, they're resetting society. Okay, they're resetting society back 100 years, and they're creating a new society, and they're resetting the value of currency that way. You see, you need to watch Theory of Relativity 2.0, be familiar with the 8 laws of anxiety, and then you can say that there ain't no one that can replicate the function of anxiety gonna be smarter than me, because I can figuratively hold anxiety in my hand and look at it. It renders their logic worthless. It renders their logic impudent. Because the only way anxiety works is if you value it. If you're objective about anxiety and you saw it coming over the horizon, and it always does, they always sneakily amp up the tension. Right? And you can see that coming over the horizon. And very quickly it's known to you who does this. And you will have control of your own space, your and the emotional topography of your life. You will be able to have control. And those people that use the replication of the function of anxiety to make you listen to them talk about something that's irrelevant, usually, they'll stop doing that because they know that you don't value it anymore. And it's like turning off that switch, man. They will cease to do that. You try it and see what you think. And so I thought I'd say something. You know, I had to say something. First time I saw you, Avi, you're wearing this IDF t-shirt, and that just, you know, that's a bad look, man. That is a bad look, considering what we in the West, the average people in the West, have seen of the IDF. Okay? Because they haven't published these. You know, the IDF is filled with average people, just normal people. And I should have been in the army. I should have gone and done it. But because of the presence of anxiety in my family, I had no family, actually. Okay, and that is the fact. If your parents are both driven by the belief that anxiety is virtuous, you do not have a family. I grew up without any evidence of a relationship around me. None. Okay. So that was the first precursor to this place that I find myself. Okay. You know, and if we talk objectively, what other Israeli could we find that was pro-consciousness, pro-objectivity? What other Israeli thinks that being very mindful of your job as a top priority, because the job looks after the family. You know, what other Israeli might have that similar thought? So I say to you and everyone, right? I know that most Israelis, right? They actually just like Kiwis, really. They're just like average middle class Western people. You know, and so this is why theory of relativity and the revelation of the 8 laws is an amnesty. It is the grand amnesty, and it is a perfect thing. This fits exactly every facet of the human experience, and it is a message from the universe, okay, or that which is there. For you, for Israel, for Palestine. A means to articulate the situation. A means to objectively mitigate the first 2 laws of anxiety out of the discussion. All power to you, Avi. You just keep doing what you're doing. And now is now, but I'm doing this for tomorrow. I'm doing this for a better future. As you are. As you are. Because the political optics of what you're doing, Avi, this is gold, mate. This is a very good thing to do, man. If only more people had such courage. You know, only more people had such courage. And you can know, I have a lot to say about Yemen, right? Anyway. Okay, see you then.